Hello everyone, Daryn Wood here. So is it just me, or does everything these days feel like a reboot? I have a challenge for you. Think of the last great, completely original movie you saw in the last few years. Meaning it's not based on historical events, not based on a book, not a sequel, not a reboot, a completely original story. It takes some time. It's fucking hard. And that is what we're going to get into today. Where have all the great movies gone? Obviously, in reality, there have been a bunch of great original movies in the last few years. But there's also been a decrease in the amount of big-budget original films and an increase in the amount of adaptations. So my sister's husband actually gave me the idea for this video, shout out to Nick. We were all at dinner and he was like, why does it seem like original movies can't succeed anymore? And he used the example of Jupiter Ascending to be like, here was this big budget film with this star-studded cast and experienced directors and a popular genre. Like, what went wrong there? How come it seems like the only movies that succeed anymore are adaptations? Or how come it seems like the only original movies that do succeed are low-budget indie films? Why don't original movies do as well as adaptations? Well, first things first, let's answer that inquiry. Is it true? Well, in a literal sense, no. But when I was looking back at the most popular movies of the last 15 years, since 2011 there has been an increase, and now about half of the most popular movies of the year are adaptations. Which is kind of a lot. But I think the reason that it feels like everything is a reboot partly has to do with social media's role in nostalgia. It's always like, 90s this, cast the blah 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 reunites, remember this from your childhood? So it can feel like reboots are everywhere, but really people just love talking about them. Reminiscing is more fun than living in the now. And also, I don't think it's a matter of original movies don't do as well as reboots. I think it's more that there aren't as many original movies being made anymore, in addition to the fact that there are way more movies being made in general. And this isn't to say that being an adaptation is a diminishing quality. Originality does not mean good. And an adaptation can find its own originality from the source material. This is more of an investigation into why adaptations have become so popular. So why are adaptations so successful? What happened to all the original content? There was a time when it seemed like most great movies were original, so what happened to all the good ideas? And to help you understand, I'm going to break it down into parts, and that is the change in movie budgets, historical context, and the world we're living in today. So back in the day, like late 70s, late 90s, we had the blockbuster film era. Think like The Terminator, Jurassic Park, Titanic, Indiana Jones, all that shit. These blockbuster films were these high-concept films where the director was usually the author of the film. They were set up to be summer smashes with big box office returns. And studios banked a bunch of money on these huge productions because people would anticipate these movies for months and then line up to see them. And for these great big movies, the studio was allowed to really invest in the film's success. Like, they built these huge sets and these awesome props. Like, the best example is Jurassic Park. That movie looks so awesome, and it still holds up by today's standards because they full-on built those dinosaurs. Like, they did all this scientific research and they straight up created new technology for the movie. Like, I remember watching that movie as a child and being fucking terrified because it all looked so real. But back in those days, they had the budgets to build those elaborate sets and props. That was just like a part of the process. And then CGI came along, and it was a cheaper alternative for special effects and settings, and a lot of that real-life wonder was lost to green screens and CGI. But I mean, that's just the way of progress. If it can be done cheaper and more efficiently, then that's the way it's going to be done. But I think we can all agree that CGI is way overused these days, and it has the ability to totally ruin a movie. But it just goes to show that the budget allotted to make a vision come to life takes into account that if it can be done through green screen and CGI, then it will be. It's just not economically feasible anymore to give movies the same budget as they had back then. The low budgets are also a result of the world we're living in today. Lower budgets are caused by a bunch of shit, streaming services, the internet, capitalism, the effects of the recession, because movies are a big, risky investment. You gotta put a shitload of money into a movie to make it good. And then all that money you put into the movie is at risk because you don't know exactly if it will pay off anymore. Not that they knew exactly how it would pay off in the 80s and 90s, but audience turnout was a lot more reliable. If they had a summer blockbuster with the most popular actors and a great director, then they knew no matter what, people would come out. Summer blockbusters were this big thing, and everyone would anticipate them and show up for them. And now, a bad score on Rotten Tomatoes and the release of a new season on Netflix can bomb a movie's box office sales, so it's just not as certain anymore. And since everyone has access to the internet, the movie market isn't as solid and lucrative as it used to be. We have the option of watching at home or pirating content, and unfortunately for studios, the box office is where the movie makes its money. And in addition to lower turnout, the internet can ruin a movie before it even gets a chance to reach a large audience. Like, back in the day, you would read a review in the newspaper or hear about it from a friend, but ultimately you would go see for yourself. And so the studios could still make money on a bad movie if there was enough hype. Whereas today, a bad score on Rotten Tomatoes and everyone talking about it on social media, spoiling it and influencing opinions can keep people from even showing up. And don't pretend like you haven't done that a few times where you're about to go see a movie and then you look up the score online and you're like, damn, 25%? Shit, I'm not even gonna waste my time. When really, you might have enjoyed it. I think we need to stop doing that. We should all just watch the movies we want to watch and make our own opinions. I've tried to stop doing that, although if it looks like it's going to be really bad, I still do find myself being like, well, you know, I'm not going to waste my time and money to see it in theaters. I'll just wait till I can download it. Like, these days, no one is gonna pay $15 to see some bullshit. And sadly, some bad press can unfairly squash a movie's success, so it's dicey out there for these studios. So in a super competitive and oversaturated market in a shitty economy, making these big, risky investments just isn't fiscally responsible anymore. So when it comes to reboots, remakes, and adaptations, it's like a foolproof profit formula. If they do a reboot or a remake, they know it will generate excitement from everyone eating their member berries, and that press exposure alone will generate at least some sales. Instead of trying to get people interested in something new, they can sell them something they're already interested in, and that part of the promotion is done. And then, if they do an adaptation, they don't have to determine how to best tell a new story or if people will like it, because that part's already been done. It's already been tested, it's out there, you can read reviews. So even if people don't recognize that it's based on a book or a historical event, the studio knows at the very least that it's a good story. So less risk for them. But this isn't some new discovery. Hollywood has been adapting shit since the very beginning. It's tried and true. But not only has the budgets for movies changed, but the audience has changed as well. You have to consider what the country was like in the 80s and 90s. Like, the general feeling amongst consumers was life was pretty good. And I mean, obviously there was poverty and a bunch of fucked up shit going on. Like, both decades started out with a recession, but the US economy quickly bounced back and continued upward. There was a lot of social change being accomplished, technological advancements were exciting, the economy was doing pretty good, the Cold War was over. It was a sweet time to be an American, and art reflects life. We are a country moving forward, shedding our shitty past that was filled with oppression and war and recessions. It was a hopeful, progressive time. And you can see it in the way the future was often depicted. It was always like colorful space gadgets and flying cars and jetpacks and talking robots, compared to now where it's like everything in the future is like dystopian world to shit apocalypse. Because thanks to the internet and social media, a lot of people were forced to wake the fuck up. And it is not fun being punched in the face with transparency. We are living in a time of consequences. Now we are all aware that we are paying for the good times of the past. Like, while our parents were grooving and moving, we had to discover that our planet is dying and the government doesn't care, and that all the food we eat is poison and the government doesn't care, and that everyone's getting fucked by the Great Recession and medical bills and student loans and gentrification, and the government doesn't care. We're back at it again with stupid, unnecessary wars. Everybody hates Congress. And now that everyone has a voice on the internet, we're realizing that there's been a lot of institutionalized oppression and prejudice that's been going down this whole time. And even though it was hammered into us our entire childhood that the US is the greatest country in the world, we're getting served a cold, hard reality check. It is a depressing and exhausting time to be alive. And as a result, people are nostalgic for a simpler time when there were less consequences. And that's why there's all these reboots and remakes and tributes. People want to escape this shitty time and go back to the good old days. And corporations aren't stupid. They see all the Facebook posts and the BuzzFeed articles. They know there's a big market right now for nostalgia. It's like a foolproof formula. People always have and always will love romanticizing the past. If you haven't seen it yet, you should watch Midnight in Paris, which unfortunately is made by nasty ass Woody Allen, but it is an amazing movie about the problems of being obsessively nostalgic. Like, everyone romanticizes the past because it's the fucking past. It's inaccessible and unchanging. And of course, something that can't be recaptured is attractive, but it's bullshit. Everyone thinks some other time is the golden age while failing to appreciate the time they're living in now. Basically, nostalgia is comfortable. And when moviegoers are deciding how to spend their evening, it's easy to see why they would choose something familiar over something unknown. But to put it all together, in this day and age, is there room for big original blockbusters anymore? Well, the answer is sort of, under very special circumstances. These studios aren't handing them out willy-nilly anymore. These directors gotta earn it, because there is no room for big shitty mistakes anymore. These days, big budget means lots of studio interference. If a director wants to make and control his own story, he has to have proven through previous successes that he can do it. Like, only because Christopher Nolan killed it with the Dark Knight trilogy was he allowed to make Interstellar and Inception. But then, you look at something like Jupiter Ascending, which was this huge production with all the right pieces to make it great, and it just fucking tanked. Like, why? They had the Wachowskis, who had shown through the success of The Matrix that they were heavy hitters. They had a star-studded cast. They had a trendy genre, but, big budget for special effects, and then boom, total shit. In the past, reputation and anticipation alone might have allowed Jupiter Ascending to break even, but today, ain't nobody safe from the internet. And despite all that shit, it was just not a good story, and it got crucified by the internet. So there's still a place for original blockbusters, we're just not gonna see them dished out like they used to be. Most original movies these days are indie movies or productions that don't require a big budget or a lot of special effects. They're lower risk. Honestly, sometimes it feels like Christopher Nolan is the only one left making original, successful blockbusters anymore. Help us, Christopher Nolan, you're our only hope. But yeah, I guess the solution is, if you want to see more big original blockbusters, you gotta take your ass to the theater, even when they're bad. Or just accept that the times, they are a-changin'. Alright, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you for being patient with me. I took a little hiatus for the holidays, but I am back at it again. If I haven't answered your comment yet, I will. Just give me some time. It takes a little while to get through everything. But like always, if you like this video, please check out my other ones, and share this with a friend. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.